Okay, let's do it. So today I'm going to be speaking to former Sheffield Wednesday and Luton footballer Peter Holmes. How's it going, mate? You okay?
I'm well, thanks. You?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for joining me. Talk to me.
No
How's
worries.
life? How are you at the minute?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm not too bad. Yeah, just cracking on with life and things like that. So busy at work, but yeah, just getting used to my mortgage payments, really.
Talk to me about work then. What you're up to nowadays?
Yeah. So I'm in the sort of the skin and aesthetic industry now. I've been in that for probably 20 years now. I started getting into it due to my wife being in it when we met while I was playing football. And obviously as I came out of football and things, so I was progressing in that industry. So we've got our own independent skin clinic, where we deal with all different skin problems for clients and things like that. We do fat freezing, Botox, fillers, sort of everything like that. So we've got quite a big team that deal with things like that. So, aesthetic industry, and I've also sort of got three different sort of beauty brands that I take care of as well. So we've got teams that look after that. But yeah, started off doing that sort of part time while I was playing football, and then it got to the point where I needed to decide whether I kept on playing football, where I was, to be honest, I was slipping down the leagues, and I needed to make a decision whether to go into, more of the work that I was doing, and I decided on that role, and it's probably been a good decision. It gave me the opportunity to choose when to come out of football instead of getting to a point where you go, where do you go now, really? So
100%. That sounds amazing, and I do want to touch on those kind of things, those things that you're involved in at the moment within that industry. It's a massive change from obviously playing football to going into
yeah,
that, which is great. How was your transition then? How was your retirement process? I mean, I've spoke to many different people, and obviously I'm including myself in this in terms of kind of my transition was a little bit easier for me purely because it's my own decision. It wasn't down to industry, sorry, injury to myself. I was in control of it to a certain degree, and I've spoken to
yeah.
other people as well, and they've said, look, I was in control of it, so it made it easy for them, or they were doing something alongside playing football, which allowed them to transition a little bit more seamlessly. So, was that the case for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same with you, Dan. I was lucky that I had the choice. I was doing it, when I not full time because I was, like I'm sure you are. When you play the program, it's all or nothing, isn't it? So you want to concentrate on your football. But
Mm,
as I was sort of moving down into the conference levels, at the latter end of my career, I could do both because it was part time. But it
mm,
was never an industry that I wanted or looked to go into. I mean, at 22, 23, I went and did a sports therapy course,
mm.
and actually went back to Lilleshall for 2 summers. It
Oh
was a
wow.
2 year course home study. So the idea was with me be playing football, and then I would get the sports therapy, probably go and do my physiotherapy, but I would be able to do hands-on stuff around the clubs. And I
Mm,
was probably, to be honest, I was a little bit lazy. I should have done that because it was an ideal opportunity for me to go into clubs, work with the younger teams and get hands-on and stuff. And the
yeah.
guy I did it with, Stuart Douglas, I mean, he's done very well. He did his chartered physio and he went on, now he's at Bournemouth.
Yeah, I
And
saw
he's
that. Yeah.
doing very, very well. So that was something that I did early doors. And then
Mm,
my career sort of started kicking on and I forgot about it.
mm,
But as I went into this industry that I'm in now, it was, I was always good with computers. So I was always designing stuff, sort of graphic design, leaflets, and just helping my wife out in her clinic that she already had.
mm,
And then it got to the point where we sort of moved from her premises and completely revamped to sort of a big barn conversion. We said, come on, let's go for it. Let's push it, get more staff in, more machines. And it really, really took off. And obviously my job role grew doing that. There's a lot more to do and things like that. But, I've sort of had to teach myself, Dan, but it's a business at the end of the day. It's dealing with personalities and things like that. And yes, it's probably a sector that is not quite what I wanted to go into, but I do enjoy what I'm doing. My other companies, it's all about products and branding and things like that. And it's, if you've got a little bit of a flair for branding, it's good to see your brand out there and you're really pushing it. you
yeah.
know you can't do it all on your own. We do have a team that does it. We have specialist people that look after certain areas, but when it's your own business, you have to start from somewhere, and you have to do everything that you can to keep your business going forward. Otherwise, it's gonna fail.
100%.
But yeah, it was probably like you said, not too bad a transition, and I got to the point where I needed to make a decision, and I think I sort of made the right one. But saying that in hindsight, I look back now and I think, did I stop too early? Because I do miss the football side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said obviously there. I mean, for me, I don't miss it at all, which sometimes people find a bit strange, and that's nothing negative towards football or my career by any means. But it's just because I'm so involved in what I'm doing at the moment that I don't really have time to think about it. I don't really talk about football anyway unless someone asks me about it. But kind of what element do you miss about football?
I mean, I say I don't miss the, like I say, all or nothing. If you're not, you got to the latter part of the years, and if you weren't fit, it was terrible because you've got kids that couldn't lace your boots, with all due respect, running past you. You just think, look, I can't do this. You might have the ability, but if you're not fit, and when you're working as well, it's difficult to get to that level.
Yeah.
But I do, I played for Hayes and Yeading when they're in the conference. I do sort of coaching there as well. So I do that sort of every, I used to do it sort of Tuesday, Thursdays and Saturdays, but with the work, I just can't do that anymore. And it's an hour's drive for me. So I just do the games, but I like being around that. You're never going to get rid of that damn way, being around the lads, the winning and losing. You never lose that. And I think that's, I still need that part of it, to be honest. But saying that, I'm probably in agreement with you. I don't miss playing every Saturday or something like that. I don't even really have a kick around. I go down and kick around with the lads when they're warming up or something like that. But I'm probably in agreement with you. I've played a lot of football in our lives because we started so young. I don't feel that I've missed it. I've done that part of my life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But you get to a point where there's other things in life which you need to focus on. But I'm glad I'm still involved in some capacity. I have had options to, I've got friends who are managers and things like that, where I could have probably, if I pushed myself, I never did my badges, Dan. I could have pushed myself to a level where I could have been coaching at a higher level. But again, when you've got your job and that's your focus and it's part of your family, it's me and my wife that run those businesses as well as a big team. You have to focus on that. You don't really have a choice, and I don't regret that. I've had my time as a footballer. I would always stick to what's been done.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. When it came to like your retirement and your thought process behind it, did you get any help at all from anyone, family members, friends? Did you touch on kind of teammates that maybe a bit older and may have retired before you, or any organisations at all?
I wouldn't say organisations. I mean, we worked with certain people in the sector, so it helped. I spoke to guys that were in the sector and they were doing different things, and I was like, I didn't say what we was like, but I could see where they had a role within the business. The skin aesthetic industry is a huge thing. It's not just all about treatments and treating customers. There's a lot more to it than that. And I was looking to get involved in that side. I've got a team, and my wife's quite established in this industry. We do well with the clients that we treat. We have a high end client list, but we do everybody. That helps my job with promoting and things like that. But I think I was lucky because the business was already ticking along. So it wasn't as if I wouldn't have been missed if I'd suddenly pulled out and gone and done something else. But as the business grew, I think my role grew, to a point where I was needed within certain sectors to keep things going, to coordinate things, a go-between and things like that. And there was all kinds of roles I've done, but I wouldn't say I did lean on certain people that have been in the industry, yes, but there wasn't any sort of governing body, so to speak, that would direct me and say do this, do that. We started one business which we don't have. We exited sort of about 5 years ago, which grew very, very quickly. And it started with nothing to a point where it was just a training room and a few products. And it was really my wife that pushed that. And that grew, it was one of the quickest selling sort of beauty brands in the trade market. And when I mean by trade, it's selling to professional clinics. Right. So we would offer them a treatment which they would learn like a training school, but then we added a product brand to it, and it became very, very popular. It was called HD Brows, and it was what sort of beauty clinics would do. It was a beauty brand, but it was very, very popular. And like I say, for whatever reason, we had to exit, but it was doing very well, and we've you know, it was a hard decision at the time. You know, you
Yeah.
didn't really have a choice to leave that because you put so much in, you know, of your energy into it. But you know, you move on, and now we've got other brands and things. But I learned a lot in that time, and a lot about business. You know, and it's not always without being disrespectful to certain people that have got qualifications. It doesn't mean that they know they're right all the time. You know, it's about how you deal with people, and you know, how you get along with people and how you work business. So yeah, I learned a lot on the job, to be honest.
Good stuff. And then kind of transferable skills is a big thing for me. You know, I always say, look, athletes have got transferable skills. We haven't all got the same, but
Yeah.
we have got transferable skills that we may have picked up along the way, or maybe kind of with us innately from birth, that are transferable to different organisations and industries. So, what do you reckon yours are that allowed you to kind of maneuver with yourself from your footballing career to kind of what you're doing now?
I think you know, I wouldn't say you know, I did okay at school. You know, I didn't take any further qualifications, but I think I picked things up quite quickly. I think probably like you, Dan, I'm quite technical in terms of picking things up and putting platforms in place. You know, but I think there's a lot that goes between being from a, you know, looking at different managers that you've dealt with and things like that. I think business and football is very much like, certainly probably from a player point of view as well now, but managing, it's all about personalities. You know, you're not going to get you know what it's like. You're not going to get a squad with the same personalities. So you need to be able to deal differently and treat them differently. And one route might not be the same as another. You know, it was always the case. Some people, you put your arm around them, another one would need a bollocking, you know, to get what you wanted out of football. But it's a little bit similar in business. And I think it's, you know, I think I've got people skills. I can deal with people, and I think I can read people in a room to think, right, are they talking bullshit? Are they saying the right things? Or are they trying to sell me something? You know, and in business, you need to be like that, because you can be pushed down a route where you think, oh, this is fantastic, this is the route, when you know you have to make mistakes. You learn by your mistakes. And I think, you know, anyone that's, you know, says they've done a business and everything's been perfect is not talking sense. You have to make your mistakes to do the right things. But yeah, I think people skills, Dan, is the most thing, and knowing how to deal with certain people is probably the main thing, I'd say.
Okay. And then this is more generic now. So from an athlete's perspective, so this could be any sport. Do you think retirement should be approached in a different way? So what I mean by that is, if we go back to when we were, I don't know, just breaking through 17, 18, 19, talking like 20 odd years ago, anyone that mentioned retirement, whether it be to us or one of the kind of senior players, it would be seen sometimes as a bit of a negative conversation, no one really wanted to talk about it. So from that perspective, I know things have changed slightly now, but there's still that element that's involved in that. So do you think it should be approached in a different way and seen as a bit more of a positive kind of framework?
I think it should, because you know, you need to look at it, but you know as well as I do, Dan, we can sit here, and when we're at that age, you know, if someone has sat in front of us where we were at that age, you know, we were the cream of the crop at that age. If someone has said to you, you need to focus on something else, it would have gone over our heads. You know, it was like football. That's all I know. I'm going to do the football. And, you know, hindsight's a good thing, but anyone that comes out of football will say the same thing. It's like, if you've got a passion or you can do different things. You know, I was listening to Laurie Wilson's one that you did, and he's got so many different assets that he's done in time. He's picked up all them qualifications. It can go into a load of things. But I think if you've got a passion or something, you like, go and do it early doors. You've definitely got the time to do it. So yeah, I think it should be a big thing that they should push that, because at our age it was all about, you know, you go to college once a week, and it was not thought of. And it was a joke, Dan, wasn't it? When you used to go to that, it was like a day off. It was a day off. Yours was like, but we used to go to Leeds, and it was, you know, all the clubs, you knew each other, you were having a laugh. It was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I didn't even get the opportunity to go, because when I left Lillishall, and we'll touch on Lillishall shortly, I started my YTS at Nottingham Forest. Didn't really enjoy it, so I left, went on trial to a bunch of clubs, signed for Leicester, and then because I did so well, I hit the ground running at Leicester. They just said to me, rather than going to college, which was seen as a bit of a day off anyway, like you just mentioned, we'd rather you come in and train with like the older players. So whilst everyone was going to college who was like my age or thereabouts, I wasn't going there. So
Yeah,
I
really.
never really experienced the college kind of side of it, but I heard the stories. You just go and people were just messing around with teammates and
And
other
it
teams.
was an MVQ. I mean, it was a mess around. I mean, the teacher was there. She knew what the class was. It was a bunch of footballers. Egos are massive. I'm 19. I'm going to make it. You know what it was like. And if you did the basics right, you would pass it. But that wasn't going to get you anything.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many different things you can do now. And I think this is what these academies probably do. I don't know. The academies probably do try and push them down the route, but if you've got something and if you're a half decent player, the money that you can earn, if you can focus on something and you're a little bit intelligent, you can walk into but if you think about it, you finish at say 32, 33, you're 12, 15 years behind that person that started at 19,
yeah,
20. So, and your money's going to be, we all know it, you get to a point, but you do have those people that will push and push and push that maybe aren't academic, which, I wasn't brilliantly academic. I was okay, but there are different things you can go into, whether you're into music or this, that, and the other and stuff. But I agree with you, Dan. I think it's a massive thing, but it's very difficult for especially kids this day and age. Like if they want to be a football, that's all they're going to focus on. And it's very difficult to get into their heads to think like you're one of many that want to do that. Because if you're not earning the millions like Harry Kane and things, then you're not going to be able to sit on your deck chair at 33, 35. It's not going to happen. It's really
100%,
not going to happen,
100%. Yeah,
So,
it's,
yeah.
it's a tough one. I mean, I haven't got the answers, and again, like you said, it's hard to get into the heads of these players, whether they're young or more senior. It's just difficult when you're in that environment.
Yeah.
But things seem to be changing from a club's perspective. There's a lot more awareness out there for these athletes now, which is a good thing. Let's roll back
Yeah.
the years. Let's talk about our time when we first met at Lillyshaw.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Lillyshaw FA National School based in Shropshire. It's now defunct because football clubs have now got academies. So basically, we were the cream of the crop, the best kind of 15, 16 players. From the age of 14 to 16, you get selected and you're representing the country and you're living away from home and things like that. So talk to me about, obviously, Lillyshaw. We roomed together in our first year. How was that experience for you?
I wouldn't change it. When we got that letter, it was like that was all I wanted to do. Go to Lilleshall, brilliant. But when you break it down, Dan, playing for your country at that age, you were known as like that was the cream of the crop. You played against all the best teams. Football. You couldn't not enjoy it. But I think there's a certain part of it that moving away from home at that age, and it was that not regimented, but like you've said, you don't miss football. There was so much football involved that kids of our age, you did want something different at times. You did probably miss out things of going out with your mates and this, that, and the other stuff. But that's the decision that you made, and I think for all of us, we benefited highly from it. So I wouldn't change it. And if I had a son now and said, look, that was the opportunity, I would probably say, yeah, I think you need to go and give it a go. But I think everyone went through spells where they were homesick. It was hard, but we had a great bunch of lads. We were lucky. We had a good group. But it's one of them. It was for some people, it wasn't for others, and it didn't mean. I think at our age, we sort of thought, well, if you're going to go there, if you don't go there, you're not going to make it, which isn't the case at all.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Smudger. He lasted three months, and I always remember Alan Smith, I was really close with him when we, because he was at Leeds, I was at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
And on a homesick point of view, he was, when we were in the trials, he was always the one that would come over and be chatty and lively and this, that, and the other and that. But when it got to being away from your family and things, it was a homesick point of view, and that's each their own. But he went on to have a fantastic career, and fair play to him, because Smudgy was a great player,
Yeah.
So it's it was for some, it wasn't for others, but I wouldn't change it. But there was negatives and there was positives of it, wasn't there?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I echo that. Looking back now, my daughter's just turned 14, and I was thinking about it the other day, thinking it's around that age. Well, literally, it was that age that we were leaving home. And for some people, like it wasn't, for me, it was still far because an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes in the car at that age, that's a long journey. But other players who were coming from down south, it's like 3-4 hours and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
yeah.
for me, Dan, I mean, I remember and that was one thing that I found really hard. It probably wasn't too bad for you because you went back to Nottingham, didn't you? Was it
No,
Leamington, wasn't it?
yeah, Leamington. So
Yeah.
I was, yeah. So Leamington's like, yeah, South Warwickshire. So
Yeah. So me getting home, when we used to go home, I mean, it would take me 3.5 hours to get home. So if you think when we had to leave on a Sunday,
oh yeah,
it was that I found that the difficult because I couldn't just shoot home and and you don't realize what it does. I remember going home once. I mean, my mum was crying. I'm like, "What are you crying for? I'm at home." But that's what when you got kids now, it's like, well, you don't want to see like you said about your daughter at 14. It's difficult just to let them go, but there's a reason you're doing it because it's an unbelievable opportunity, isn't it? But
yeah.
the things we went Brazil, we played all over, didn't we? You wouldn't change that for the world. But it's one of them things. It works for some, it didn't work for others, does it? So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
So obviously, 2 years graduated. You've left there. You've now started your YTS at Sheffield Wednesday. High aspirations. I remember playing against your team, and Sheffield Wednesday always had good players. And you guys had 3 players that actually went to Lillishall in our year. That was in that
We had
year.
Yeah. Did we play? We played in was it Academy Cup we played, yeah?
I think so.
We
Yeah,
played with
yeah.
Dawson played, Prutton. There was a lot of lads, but we got to the final of the Academy Cup one year, and I think we played Forest on the way there. But yeah, we had. I mean, obviously, Alex Higgins, Kev Nick was in our crew, and then Stephen Haslam was in the year above. He was the captain for the older lot. So that made it a little bit easier because I knew Has anyway.
Yeah.
We had people there and that, but yeah, I mean, it was one of them things. It was easier knowing people there and stuff, but yeah, it was one of them things, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then so you left Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, that must have been quite difficult for you. And I think you went straight from there to Luton, and you did really well at Luton, and you spent probably most of your career there. So how was that for you? Obviously, leaving Sheffield Wednesday, but then your career's kind of kicked on a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Sheffield Wednesday. Was lucky enough to sort of, as you do, you've been at Lillishall, you do a couple of months YT straight into pro. All the 3 lads that were there did that, and I was there for about 3 or 4 years. And I had a coach called Ricky Hill who was fantastic. Anyone that's trained with him said he was brilliant. And he left. He was my coach for the academies and the reserves and things, and he went to Luton. And I remember I had another year left at Sheffield Wednesday, and it was a point where was I going to be in the first team? Was I going to be in and around it? And it turned out my agent was the agent of Paul Jewell there. And I think he said, look, you're not going to be featuring a lot. You're going to be in and around it. And, I got the opportunity to go to Luton for 3 years. And again, Dan, that was one of them where it happened like that. I mean, I remember negotiating it one day, and the next morning I was in a car going down to Luton, living in Luton, finding places to live, this, that, and the other. And I wouldn't say I was too young, but I don't know whether, physically I was ready for first team football. I probably got to admit that, and that big move, leaving your family again, left my girlfriend in Sheffield, family's even further up north. It took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah.
But I knuckled down, and like I say, first season we got relegated. Tanny was part of that team.
Yeah.
But from there on, you dig in. I look, I don't want to fail. I want to play football. And we got promoted to League 2, League 1, and ended up back in the Championship. Within 4 years.
Yeah.
And I was a part of that. We had a great team. I was in and out. I had injuries like any footballer does, but I enjoyed it, and I think I liked where I lived. And look, I should have left maybe at times, but it's like there's also so many ifs and maybes. But I had a great time at Luton, and it's a special club. Look at what they're doing at the moment. They haven't got the greatest ground. They need new ground, but it's a special club, and people that play for it realise because the fans are very good. But yeah, and then I moved back up to Rotherham, and like I said, I thought that was me moving back up north to settle down.
Yeah.
That's where I'll settle down. But like I say, I moved back down south because of sort of my other work commitments, and I settled down here really.
Okay, and then like most of us throughout our career, we end up kind of filtering slowly down the leagues, and I certainly did. And in some ways, I found it difficult from a mental perspective, and I don't mean like mental health. I mean like mentally approaching games and training because the facilities weren't what you used to, and the game understanding of certain players weren't there. And although we had other players who had filtered down the leagues and maybe started quite high in academies and things in the Premier League and stuff, but from a kind of overall perspective, as you know, when you filter down, a lot of the players aren't kind of a decent standard, for want of a better phrase. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, sometimes it was quite difficult. Sometimes you want to stay behind and work on your game a little bit after training, but then you run the risk of having a cold shower or whatever it is, or you're in a car school and you need to get back in the car because they're going to leave, and like all
Yeah.
those things people don't really see from the outside looking in, and it can be a hindrance onto your career progression, if that makes sense. So from a playing perspective and holding my own on the pitch, I didn't find it hard when I filtered down the leagues from that perspective, but it was all the other things surrounding it, and even the professionalism or lack of it from
Yeah.
some of the clubs that I was at, that did hinder me in some ways as well. So I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts behind that?
I do agree, and I mean, I think that's from a mental point of view. I think we have the luxury of Lilleshall. You go to your pro clubs, and it does. You do see a big difference. I saw that when I went to Luton. There's no better thing. You go to Luton when I was there in League Two. The facilities weren't good at all, but they got better and better and better. And in some ways, I agree with you, Dan. But I think you've got to, it is dog eat dog. I think people don't realise football's a very cutthroat game, and it doesn't matter about the physics. You've got to zone that out. It's all about what you do on a Saturday. And I think we were both quite technical players, more technical than maybe physical. And I think our games were probably suited more higher up because it was more of a technical game, although it was physical as well. There's always going to be that part of it. There's always this thing. League Two, certainly League Two, I found it difficult to begin with because I'd come out of that academy reserves, which isn't real football, going straight into where it's all about passion and things like that. And I did find it difficult to start, but once it clicked and I realised what this was all about, it was fine. But yeah, I think they're things that you have to deal with. You deal with mentally, but it's just part of the game, isn't it? You see players that have started there, and when they get to the top, they won't give that up because they've seen what it's like below. And some people go the other way, but I would never once say, and I don't think you would, Dan, that I would ever use that as an excuse for me not kicking on. But I would say that probably my overall game was better for a higher level because it was more football wise than it was at League Two. But like I say, I mean the conference, when I played in the conference was of a good level, but you had certain standards of players and things. But I wouldn't want to use that as an excuse for why maybe I didn't go on and on and on. I think you've got to own that yourself.
100%,
But there are loads of things you can go over, and it's we could talk all night, Dan, couldn't we, about what ifs and maybes and things. And I think you have to sometimes park that football bit, and that's done now. You can't do anything about it, but it's good to sort of reminisce and think why and things, because everyone's got a story of why this, why that. But I think in a 15-year career, you get what you deserve, so to speak. That's how I looked at it. But I wouldn't, that's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, me too, definitely, 100%. In terms of, again, more an overall perspective, do you think more help's needed for, let's say football, just because we've both played football, but do you think more help's needed for an athlete or a footballer when it comes to the retirement process, transitioning from sport to another career?
100%, yeah. Because unfortunately, we've all got those friends or that friends mate who, it hasn't turned out okay after football, because I don't want to put it on the thing of smoking and drinking, but football's a drug. When you're that into it, it's a drug, and you realise that you understand why people do struggle, because where do they get that kick from? If they can't play on a Saturday afternoon and they don't have that, where do they get that? And then they go to other things. But I do think there needs to be something. And you always thought the PFA would be that. And I've had good things with the PFA. We went to administration at Luton, and they looked after me to a point which was quite good. That's what you paid in for. But I think I've had friends that have tried to set up individual sort of companies and things like that, which would really help. And that was sort of 10 years ago. They tried to take it to PFA, they tried to take it to clubs. And I think the academies do it now, but it's almost like a liaison person where even with the older players, they can see what's happening if they've been injured, and they need to be able to speak to them because, you know, mental health and stuff like that, it does hit people in different ways. But I think they need to start getting prepared for that. But some people listen to it, some people don't, Dan. You know, I think you can only tell someone. It's up to them. At the end of the day, they're an adult. They need to make that decision. But I think some people do need pushing in the right direction, because it can be quite bad. You go from hero to zero very, very quickly. You know, and it must be quite difficult if you suddenly sort of drop off the face of earth. You haven't got an income. You haven't got anything to fall back on. You know, we all live to our means when we're playing football, don't we? You know.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with literally everything you just mentioned there, and it is difficult. And yeah, you hear the stories, and they're not nice stories to hear, and especially when it's people that you've either played with or even friends. It's a horrible scenario. But all I can say to anyone who's kind of in that situation is just be positive, reach out to work, because sometimes when you're playing, you don't realise you've got a massive network of people you've come across who can assist you in many different ways. So that's my advice anyway. But in terms of your advice, have you got any advice that you'd give to kind of any athlete, footballer, let's call it, who's maybe young or towards the end of their career? What advice would you give them with regards to helping them transition out of the game?
I think you just got to focus on something that you do enjoy, whether it, you know, be music, DJing, teaching, whatever. You know, there's so many things out there, and it's always the thing where, oh, I've got to go back to school. And part of the norm is, yes, you have to go and get some qualification. But I was looking at this point where I was learning on the job, and you know, I've picked up so much doing that, where I would, you know, I think I would hold my own in a room with people that have these qualifications in my industry now, because I've done that. You know, it's all right having the greatest marks, but you get chucked into the big bad world, and it's like, you know, you're like, oh, well, that's not supposed to happen. You know, you just have to run with it, and you will, you know, have disappointments and stuff. But I'd say to any kid now, you've got to have something different, because if you do, life's going to look a lot rosier when you are coming to the end of your career, because it is going to happen. You know, at 19, you don't think it is. You think you're going to be playing at the top for 20 years and stuff. I'll keep playing. But there is going to come a point where you're going to have to make that decision. If you've got something in the bag or halfway there, you know, unless you've been very good with your finances and things like that, which, let's have it right, you know, it's not going to last you in this day and age that long unless you're playing, you know, World Cup football and stuff, Premier League football. So you've got to have something. But that's why I did my sports therapy. I did think like that. My mum and dad, you know, they were teachers, and you know that. They were like, oh, you need to do this. I did that, but I can't say I enjoyed it, because I don't like studying. I found it difficult, and I was lucky that I didn't sort of not do that, but I went into something else, because I'd have looked back and thought you had 5 or 6, 7 years to get hands-on in a football club. I could have worked my way to a job straight away, you know, when I'd finished, but I didn't do that. And, you know, it would have been nice to be in football in that capacity, but that wasn't my life, was it? It's, you know, this is it now. And, you know, I don't regret it. It was just one of them things, you know.
Amazing, mate. No, I really appreciate obviously coming on today, and we haven't spoken for years. So it's just nice to obviously see your face, and hopefully we've been trying to sort out this Lillishall reunion for like 1.5 years, it seems. So hopefully some point next
COVID got in the way. No one wants to play golf.
Yeah, I know.
I've just seen Slats has just said he's coming. So I don't know whether we'll get the whole team there, Dan, but we'll get some. It'll be good to see you. But are you ever in London? You ever come down to London?
I used to when I was younger, in my single days, but not now. But like I said, looking forward to
that'd be good,
the boys, and hopefully we can do it kind of after that consecutively as well. But yeah,
you believe it's been 25 years? It's been 25 years, been or something.
It must be around 25.
That is mental, isn't it?
It's crazy.
25 years.
Crazy. But like I said, really appreciate you coming on. I'm glad you're obviously doing well in your life at the moment. If you want to just let us know the names of your companies again, and then where we can find you on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, I will do that.
Just let us know now.
Oh, the companies now, yeah. Oh, no. So I've got a skin clinic called Derma Spa. which is sort of at dermaspa_MK.
Okay.
I've got a beauty brand called Eyebrow Queen, which is sort of beauty products and things, which is at Eyebrow Queen. We sell sort of skin tightening machines called Collagen Wave, which is at CWAVE_official. And I've also got another product brand called Pura Mist, which is sort of like an antiseptic spray. We brought that out during COVID, which helps with bacteria and things. So that's at Pura Mist spray. So yeah, there's websites for those as well. But yeah, that keeps me busy at the moment, Dan. So
Good stuff, mate.
yeah, different
Awesome.
industry, but like I say, all good.
Yeah, it sounds great, mate, and I'll check them out definitely. But like I said, thanks for coming on. All the best going forward. Hopefully, see you in maybe 6 or 7 months in the summertime.
Okay.
And then yeah, we'll go from there.
Good man. Good man. All right, Dan.
See you later,
Good
mate.
to see you. Take care. Cheers. Bye bye.